one who held a rave, the promoter, the guy who owned the building. I would put the son of a gun in jail. I would change the law. But we're afraid to do that because we affect commercial interests. They get kind of shaky when we do that. I would be moving vigorously. It's no, you can ask my cops who are going to come and testify. And you know your folks. There's no doubt about where these raves are. In the middle of the desert. Arrest the promoter. Find a rationale unrelated to drugs. Keeping an unsafe, for example, I'm the guy who authored the crack house legislation. We can use the crack house legislation to tear down these buildings.
How's it going, everybody? We are back. It's been a minute. This is Joe Biden hating on ravers.
Hating on ravers.
Hating on the ravers. I'm Carter Hammond.
That. I like it with the intro.
Yeah. I figured switch it up a little bit. I'm Carter Hammond. This is Jonah Wheeler, and we're gonna, we're doing locally sourced, and we're gonna rant about how utterly bullshit. Yeah, I'm like, we're just gonna jump right. This video never be monetized. So,
never. No.
Yeah. No. Look, like, I mean, I think it's pretty like it. Their Twitter feed would suggest otherwise, but it's pretty abundantly clear the Democrats fucked up royally in this election. Cool. Joe Biden looks like he's probably going to pull it off. There's still lawsuits up the wazoo in Pennsylvania, and it's just like everything is getting contested.
We have to go through first before Joe Biden is even, anywhere near the presidency. So yeah, we won, but losses down the line.
Right. Yeah. And then the other question is kind of like, well, okay, yeah, but like we won. Like, who won? You know what I mean? Right. Like when I think about it, right? Like I lost like ground in every other branch of government that I can think of. Especially in New Hampshire. The whole thing went red. So it's like who won just now? And I would say that it was like rich liberals who can afford to ignore the societal problems, and like George Bush Republicans, like they won because they managed to completely turn the Democratic Party into what they're like, the old school Republican Party. And now there's no left. There's just absolutely no more left. Like that's what happened. Like we saw it in real time. So, I don't know about you, but like anybody that considers themselves like part of like the Democrats, like you're now in direct line of fire from me saying like you're no better than like why should I think you're any different than like Lindsey Graham? Really? Like at the end of the day, why should I see any difference between Democratic leadership on a more local level and some jackass conservative? And I think the reason I say that is because like nobody ever holds them accountable for the fact that like permitting it is just as bad. My partner showed me just like a tweet this morning, and it was like, everybody, can we have, we need help. And it's like Republicans, no. Democrats, no.
Love.
BLM, gay pride flag, heart emoji. Like, there's no difference ultimately. And that's the thing. And like in my opinion, any political move that I've seen Democrats make, like, they're fucking awful. It's just like, it makes no sense. It's like, and I think that, the left can, I personally think Bernie would have done a lot better. Not that there aren't problems.
A lot better down ballot races too in the Senate and the House if Bernie had been elected.
I
contrary to what people were trying to say. But
Yeah, I think that's true. I definitely think that's true because I think the down ballot would have been way more of a component of the Sanders campaign. You know, like there's a lot of truth in saying that I'm sure that the GOP didn't give a shit about COVID and they just went and knocked on doors anyways.
yeah,
Whereas like the whole Dem establishment decided to move over to like digital awareness crap. And like, I mean, in that regard, this show, for example, is probably only speaking to like a certain subset of people that would be inclined to get that from this type of source anyways. So the point is that like, if I'm like, I don't care if people want to watch us less. I don't know, maybe this will make them want to watch us more. I don't, but the reality is like, I'm not talking to I'm not talking to the non-voter, you know what I mean? Like I'm not talking to the like weird populist like that has like oddly progressive values, and like that Fox News poll that they did where it was like, you know, they framed it like hard, like the worst framing of
government controlled healthcare.
Yeah. Are you in favor of government controlled healthcare? It was like the least friendly way to put it, and it was like 70% of people wanted it, and it's like, okay, how do you square that with the fact that like they're also like, how many of those people are like abhorrent racists? And like we're gonna lose forever if we keep tracking like the identity thing so hard. Like it's alienating. And I think like, look, like we had these crazy protests all summer long, and how did Biden do with the black vote? Like, not great. You know, like look at Miami-Dade, like that's really bad. And I just like,
I mean, I saw something where Trump got more non-white support than any Republican candidate in the last 60 years.
Yep.
So that you know, that alone proves the Democrats have failed on everything. You have tried to paint Trump as a racist, a xenophobe, an indecent person, someone who doesn't care about minorities, which he doesn't. But in painting him like that, you've lost ground with Hispanics. You've lost ground with these people, and he's gaining ground. He's grown his base, and yeah, we brought out more people, and more people liked Donald or Joe Biden in this election than Donald Trump. But down the ballot, we lost races. We lost houses in the seat, or we lost seats in the House. We lost the Senate, and as a result, nothing will get done. We'll have a split legislature, Biden as president, and the Hispanic community, the Black community, all these minorities communities that are hurting, that are just looking for a glimmer of hope in just the sea of suffering.
Right. Yeah. And
they
it's
don't.
like,
They have not. They don't have that anymore.
There's no. I mean, it's and I think like, you know, I was really thinking like about this. You know, I was listening to Josh Rogers on NHPR. I was trying to pull it up. I'm not sure if I let's see here. Do you have it? Yeah, okay. I can play some. We can do some audio here. Let's see really quick. Okay. So here is we'll just listen to this.
And this is All Things Considered from NHPR. I'm Emily Quirk. In some ways, New Hampshire's election results amount to a ringing endorsement of the status quo in state politics. Incumbents Jeanne Shaheen, Chris Pappas, and Annie Kuster all won re-election to the U.S. Senate and House, and Governor Chris Sununu easily won a third term. But go down the ballot a bit and the situation is different. Republicans made serious gains in the state legislature and executive council, likely seizing control of those bodies from Democrats. Here with me now to discuss the results and what it might mean for state politics and policy in the coming year is NHPR's senior political reporter, Josh Rogers. So I know some races are still not yet officially called, but what do we know about state house races at this point?
Well, Governor Sununu won re-election, not much of a surprise there. His margin was among the largest in the past few decades. Beyond that, there were some surprises farther down the ballot. Why don't we start with the Executive Council? Heading into Election Day, Democrats held a 3-2 majority, and that's allowed them to deny Sununu some key priorities. A big one is naming a new Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The governor's been bent on putting Attorney General Gordon MacDonald there, and he first nominated MacDonald for that post more than a year ago, but Democrats on the council rejected MacDonald in large part because of his past working for Republican politicians, and the governor's indicated he would wait for another council, one hopefully more amenable to his desires, and with a Republican majority, Justice MacDonald certainly seems like a pretty strong possibility at this point. Over in the legislature, things are still coming together. There are races that are not yet finalized in terms of the results, but from what I'm seeing and hearing, it seems pretty certain that Republicans will take a majority in both the House and Senate, and that would be a pretty big shift from the past 2 years when Sununu had to contend with Democrats in control, and there were pretty constant clashes over policy, things like business taxes, energy policy, even over how best to spend the pandemic relief money from the federal government.
Given that Democrats did pretty well at the top of the ballot in New Hampshire, Joe Biden defeating President Trump here, Jeanne Shaheen, Annie Kuster, and Chris Pappas all winning with fairly comfortable margins, why the swing toward Republicans down ballot?
Well, a lot of people are trying to figure that out right now. There are plenty of possible reasons, but one thing to bear in mind is the legislative maps themselves. Those were drawn by Republicans a decade ago and were drawn by design to favor Republicans.
Okay, hold on. See, that's the part that I want to stop at. 10 years ago, they redrew those districts. We have elections every 2 years. And that means we've been through this 5 times. 5 elections over a decade can change your psyche. Like, it can fundamentally change how you prepare for things, how you think about things. And I had this thought. I was like, because I don't know. I'm just trying. I hate that I, constantly exist in such like metaphorical terms. It's frustrating sometimes.
I do.
Yeah, but it's like, I couldn't help but think about this idea of like intellectual or moral gerrymandering, like the long-term effects that experiencing that, like you're talking about, like it would be like similar to a type of trauma, you know what I mean, where it's like over time you adjust and you normalize a certain type of behavior, right? So like that gap, right, where in New Hampshire, if the Democrats want to do anything, they have to already have over 60% of the vote, right? So it's like, and here in Peterborough, where Jonah and I are, it's like we have 75. We have about 75% of it, I would say, roughly. Like if you look at the vote totals, we're high enough that in our little town here, like this is a super blue spot. It's one of the only, like one of the few towns that like went full on felt this in the whole state. And so like my thing is like, it's weird to come from that bubble and be saying this stuff, because I feel like what we're surrounded with is a slightly different shade. And in this town, people don't, like, I think our bubble is pretty unaware of it. You know what I mean? Like that, like the way every other town feels, you know what I mean? When you're in it and what the vibe is. And I don't
Heroes
know.
got a very good idea of what other towns are feeling, but not what they're actually feeling. Like they like to think that they have an idea, like, oh, Hancock feels this way. This is it. We know everything, but we know nothing.
Right.
Sure.
And And
that's a problem with the liberal class, across the board, is just they know everything yet they know nothing.
yeah, exactly. And like, and separately, I keep thinking, I'm just in my own personal life, I've been thinking a lot about, like having some sort of like how an abstract concept can actually foist misunderstanding upon something or someone else, like another, and I think the breakdown there for me, and probably for a lot of people, is listening. Not listening enough and not actually like hearing where other people are coming from. And I think that right there tends to really undermine most progressives when they go out and they try to convince somebody of something. It's just like, because there's no accounting for that intellectual gerrymandering in the process. There's still that existence within that mental bubble about what rational thought is, and there's.
So how do we break this? How do we get out of this loop that we're in of intellectual gerrymandering?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that the left can do is to act. I mean, this is my opinion. If the left actually wants to, like, have power someday ever and have any say in anything, I think we need to fundamentally reconsider what we think coalition is. And I think we fundamentally need to reconsider how power gets wielded specifically, right? So I get wary about anything that centralizes power in any one specific organization or like concentration of organizations. I think that's, even in the nonprofit sphere, there's still hierarchies that exist. It's really, really difficult to find a completely democratized workplace. I think that that makes it hard for advocacy, because your advocacy group still has to necessarily overcome some of the like inherent rules that you're forced to obey, like how we deal with 501c3s, or how marketing on the internet works, or right, like all these things are kind of functions of a system that we like inherently recognize as broken. At the same time, we have to figure out a way to engage with it. And then there's the other component of the fact that like literally we are engaging in the same exact behavior that degrades our morals from being able to advocate for the very thing that we're out here yelling about. And like in that way, I think the most important thing to do is like the only way to mitigate something like that is to do as much decentralization as you can, and to like also reconsider like the like how much individualism matters to people. That's like,
I mean, I would add to that, and how we can get them to recognize that we are the collective too. Like, how can we meet people and recognize that they individualism is a big thing in America, but also how can we get, not collectivism, but like how can we get America to realize that it's a collective unit and it's like a working class, like class consciousness? How can we get people to wake up and
I always think like the idea of framing it like give it to people in a way that's easily consumable for them.
Right.
Like I don't know, maybe using, like, and I really do think it's like this fucking semantic, like word choice, going from party to team, right? Changing your language from using the word party to team. And I know that there's a lot of negativity surrounding the word team, but the reason I bring it up is like its relevance to sports. You know what I mean? Like people love the idea of sports teams, right? And if we're able, but I think there's a further degree of like a team at work. Like you have a small team of people in a certain department and there's solidarity. So it's like, how do you find ways to lift up actual solidarity in people's daily lives by showing them that the teams that they're a part of honor and respect and hold space for their individuality, right? Like, so when I think about like, if we want to have a good team of people, what I think is like, all right, strategically, we're planning for 2022. We want to take back the house. Go from town to town, figure out what is like in each town, in each district, what do people give a shit about? What's the most important issue to them? And then find a candidate that can take whatever their passion issue is that's relevant to the left, right? Like we all kind of have something that matters a lot to us. So we need to specialize a little bit more. Like, you know, we need to be okay with sinking into a certain degree of individual specialization because we have to rely on our teammates, right?
Yeah.
Like
Not everyone is good at everything, you know, like you gotta divvy up the work and make sure that you can delegate it right so you can get it done. Strategize beyond that. Look at people's house maps and be like, look, Range wants healthcare. Let's get a candidate who is gonna push for healthcare and do it in a simple, clear, and concise way, breaking from party talking points or normal talking points that just politicians speak, and energizing a base of people in Range that could beat party demographics.
Mm-hmm.
I think like Republicans don't not want healthcare. It's about us convincing them that giving them Medicare is the right option. And that's not an impossible task.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Republicans that are on Medicare. They see that it works. It's just about getting them to the point where they recognize that we need Medicare for everybody. And the same goes down the line for all the other issues. And it's not impossible to take back the House. I think it's just about restructuring the leadership of the Democratic Party, restructuring the people who are creating the messaging. And you know, I saw that you called for Ray Buckley to resign. I think that is the best option. I think that is what we need to do to move forward. We have to, you know, get rid of, like, fire the political consultants, fire the lobbyists, fire all these lawyers that are meant to, you know, predict or like cast or whatever, just try to predict what people are going to do, and just get on the ground and start addressing the people's issues. Start actually meeting them where they are and one-on-one and saying, look, I'm going to fight for you. There's nothing else other than that. No bullshit. I'm not going to hear giving you a speech about policy or something like that, even though I'm going to talk about my policy. I'm just going to straight up tell you, I'm fighting for you. I'm just another human being fighting for you. Not attached to another party. I'm not attached to any special interests. And people respond to stuff like that. And if you have candidates down across the board for the Democratic Party or for the Republican Party, I mean, because I think the reason the Republican Party is winning right now is because people on the ground see the Republican Party as the solution. That's like kind of what we need to realize is the Republican Party is winning the argument right now.
Yeah,
that's the result of this election. Is for some reason we know that they're terrible. Obviously, they're horrible. But for some reason, they are winning and convincing enough people to win. So obviously, and like trying to cancel them or trying to, you know, it's not like you have to compromise with them. It's hard. I know I'm ranting, but
no, go. It's like it's good. Get it off your chest, man.
You gotta you just got to be truthful with people. People can see past the bullshit you have when you're just a politician. And if you're not actually If you're just trying to climb the ladder, which I think is the problem with a lot of liberal politics, just anecdotally from the people I talk to, it's not like they're actually fighting for people. It's not like they're actually getting involved in politics to fix the suffering of the people or because they have a mission to fix the suffering of the people. They see the path of Democratic Party politics. They may agree with all the liberal policies and stuff like that, but they see the path of Democratic Party politics the easiest to climb the ladder and grow their own individual power. It's not about the collective. It's not about growing a multiracial working class movement. It's about how can I further myself and get elected into Senate and Congress and
Right.
continue to grow my profile, like becoming a celebrity. And this is the pursuit of so many people that on the left, on the right, that it seems like there's no hope for like bridging that divide and bringing together a working class movement. But I think that eventually, slowly but surely, the Democratic Party will change, and we will get rid of all those consultants and lobbyists, and we'll have people like Robin Voight and Sherry Frost and Maria Perez and all these other people getting elected to State House. And then the messaging that we truly need, like people will see that we're the party that's fighting for them, and then we win the argument. Once we're not being deceitful or facetious or acting as though just moral superiority.
Right.
They can see our moral superiority and they don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and and that's an interesting point right there, that whole moral superiority thing. Like, I don't know why anybody thinks that's a good strategy. Like, I don't get it. The only people that's a good strategy on are the people who are trying to use it. Yep. Right? Like, okay. If you like who should be literally ashamed of themselves right now is like the whole Democratic Party. And when I say ashamed, I mean like, dude, you should be crying in bed, and however bad you feel about it, you should feel worse. Sorry, I'm not going to pull that punch. And here's why I feel that way. Because at no point in time in my whole life, actually, with the exception of like maybe Mark Fernald's campaign, I know Arnie Arneson tried to do this way back in like the 80s too, was like actually challenged the idea of like the word income tax being bad. Just didn't happen.
I had to turn my video off for a second, but that is a very interesting point. Democrats are just not bold enough to even fight on these issues. I think most Democrats probably recognize that we need some form of new taxation in the state. But we can see it with the messaging that the Democrats have now. They refuse to just say we need a new form of taxation because social services in the state need to be funded, transportation in the state, like things need to be funded in the state. The government needs to work. And for the government to work, we need to find a new form of taxation. If you said that, I think you would win. You're not like trying to skirt around the issue or base your messaging around what the Republicans' attacks are. You're fighting for your principles and standing up and saying, these are my principles, like me or you don't. That's what I'm going to do in office. And that's
so. And here's the other thing too. Check this out, right? Like, there's a like underlying logic argument to it too, right? Sorry, my cat might yell from time to time. It's gonna happen. Sorry about that. When you don't like actually try to interact with the fact that property taxes are regressive and income taxes are progressive, that monetarily speaking an income tax is actually equitable, whereas property tax is not even remotely equitable, right? Like, this is the simple example is, right, you can have somebody that makes $3 million a year, and they could have bought themselves like a $250,000 condo up in like the Lakes region, right? They're going to pay X amount of money for that. Probably, not a whole lot, like decent property taxes, not it's going to be high because they're high everywhere. But it's not exorbitant, and they're able to keep their percentages low. Like if it's a place in like Wolfboro, they have low property tax burdens because the value is high. It's less percentage, so it's like depending on how you math it out, but it works out well for wealthy folks. Flip side, you have a family that has had land in their family for generations. They can't really farm it anymore. Laws in the state make it difficult for them to do weddings and events there, so they're not able to translate their industry, and they fall on hard times, and they don't necessarily, and they're in a maybe it's a less wealthy town, property tax rates are way higher, and they get screwed. So where's the equity there? Because I don't see any. That just doesn't make sense. And the idea also is that if you do it more fairly, right, that if it's a percentage of your income, right, everybody pays proportionally whatever what they can manage.
Proportional to what they make, yeah.
Right. Right. So that means
inherently progressive tax.
Yeah, it's progressive, right? Like it's nice. So that, like, if we're talking about a broad-based tax, it's going to raise like billions. That kind of seems like the best way to do it. And for anybody that like vilifies income tax, like I genuinely want to ask them after presenting that, like, why do you say an income tax is bad again? Remind me how a property tax is better. Like I would love somebody to come out here and explain to me why a property tax is a smarter idea.
Why the property tax is better than the income tax. Come on the stage and debate me right now.
Yeah, like fucking nobody.
You just explained is better than the system that we just talked about.
Yeah.
It's not. This is absolutely not. And they know it's not either. And they know that's why they have a hard
And I just don't understand. Why people don't do that. Like, why not challenge that? Like, that's an easy fight to win. Why not? Like, because it's gonna make me look bad. Like, so you want to stay stuck in a gerrymandered mind for the next 20 years? Like, what's wrong with you?
You're worried about like some ad with like movie trailer. Dun dun dun.
Right.
Jonah Carter supports income tax. Carter Hammond supports income tax.
I fucking care. Like
that's like you should, as a politician, you should not be worried about stuff like that. If you are fighting for something like an income tax, you go into that fight with the assumption that people are gonna fight hard against you, and that you're gonna continue to just push forward and push through because it's the right thing to do. You're not gonna compromise on your principles just to look better or have a higher approval rating or be the nice guy in the government, because I don't want a nice person in the government. I don't really care if our governor is a nice person. I just want him to fight for the working class people of the state. Couldn't care less if he's personable or whatever, comes from a ski resort family or doesn't rock the boat too much. I just want him to give me health care. I just want him to rebuild the infrastructure in the state, reform the tax structure, et cetera, bring equity to the state. And if the Democrats can realize that's how most people feel, and they put up a candidate, I don't know, maybe like Andrew Walensky, then we can have someone on that stage who wins, someone who has principles, who won't compromise on those principles once they're in office, who will continue the fight and to continue to organize around those efforts, recognizing that that's how you build political power and maintain it when you're in office. That's how we're going to get all this done.
Yeah.
Until we remove the Democratic establishment that exists now that prevents us from putting in progressive politicians like this, we're not going to get it done. And I think the strategy for the left moving forward, now that Joe Biden has won, especially, has to be a reckoning on the Democratic Party. The next fight is the fight for the soul of the Democratic Party. I think Marianne Williamson said that last night. And that fight is probably the greatest one. It's probably greater than the fight against Donald Trump because of how, like, I mean, you saw it. The Democrats fought Bernie Sanders harder than they fought Donald Trump. And they're going to continue that same energy against the progressive base in this country. And until the progressives, and I hate to say this, Bernie Sanders was not strong enough to, I'm not going to characterize it like that, but I don't know what Bernie Sanders was doing, but he was not strong enough to call that out, and he had the power. He had the power at that, and then that moment, and he could have held that power, maintained that power, and he didn't. And moving forward, what the left has to do is maintain that power. It's just, instead of losing to Joe Biden, one of the worst primary candidates that's ever participated in a presidential primary. Oh, did I just? Oops.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it. Hey, man, it's okay.
In the middle of a rant, getting another call. But yeah,
Good.
Democratic Party must restructure, and we have to have a reckoning on the Democratic Party. You know, the soul of the Democratic Party must change, and it's going to change towards our side.
Yeah, I agree completely. You know, something else I was just thinking about. Let me throw this out there. We need to steal the Republicans' talking points.
Yes.
Like, okay. Bear with me. This is going to be fun. We need to be anti-big government. We need, and here's the fucking logic. Hang in with me for 1 second. How big is New Hampshire's government? I'm pretty sure we have the biggest House of Representatives. Aside, like I think it's in the world. If it's not, I think it's like number 2 in the world.
Biggest in the world.
So, remind me again. With like just how much time have the Democrats been losing? Why are they not robbing the conservatives of the anti-big government argument? Where's it at? Because I can sit here and I can easily make an argument for how you could have small government that provides healthcare to everybody. It's not that hard, right?
Because, yeah, you can do it on almost every issue. It's smaller government. With what the left is bringing, it's smaller, more efficient, more effective government.
Yeah,
you know,
it's easy.
Government with less paper, government with less paperwork, but government with, you know, all this. It's just less government. If we have the left, we're like, you want less government? Here's Medicare. We're going to take out all this administrative cost. We're going to gut the paperwork that hospitals and doctors have to do. We're going to streamline the process, make it more effective. Everyone gets a little Medicare card. You go into the hospital and you get your care.
Yeah, it's simple.
We just won the small government argument. And that is what we have to do as the left. Like if you're going to win, you got to take over the Republicans' talking points. Small government, you know, American values, family values, something like that. Like restructure what family like all of these terms mean. Like all of like the Heritage Foundation talking point terms, restructure and deconstruct those terms, and then the propaganda that's been put upon the American people gets broken, and we've shifted the paradigm to where we can actually have a conversation about these issues and be like, yeah, no, this is what I support. It's not like, oh, you Marxist, you socialist, like
right.
Yeah, we can actually have a conversation moving forward once we've taken back the terms of small government and the term, like all these Republican talking points and stuff like that. Because that is so true. I mean, we have the biggest government in the world, almost the third biggest legislature.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's such a like
small government. Yeah, it's like, oh God. The hypocrisy is
it just seems like, I think that's the thing that's frustrating to me is like, it's like, you know, I don't know, I've been trying to like listen to different perspectives lately, and like it like I don't know, like I think the left would be stupid to not try to listen more to like the like quote unquote minority voters that felt incredibly disenfranchised during this election. I'm not going to say one way or another about it because I don't know enough. But I think, like, if you look at Miami-Dade, if you look at literally, like, the map of, oh gosh, where was it? For governor, right? Like, let's put it up. Jeez.
That was making me sad again.
Oh my gosh, it's freaking savage, man. Like, look at that.
God.
Right? Like, that's insane.
And I mean, the amount of votes that Joe Biden got, where Chris Sununu also got votes, that's horrible. Like the amount of people that went into the voting booth and were like, I don't like Donald Trump, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, but also Chris Sununu.
Yeah.
And then also Gene Shaheen and Chris Pappas. And it's like, it's a,
so yeah, it's like, how do you go from this and this to this? And that's like, there's no, like, I think maybe it's worth us realizing just how small we are in the scheme. You know what I mean? Like, that's a hard pill to swallow, but I see that and I think, like, okay, we've got a lot of, like, we've got a lot of, like, rethinking the messaging to do. And I think, honestly, like, I can't help but think that a certain amount of, like, the just the state, like, the, protesting and stuff like that, I wonder where that fits into pushing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I wonder where, like,
I wonder how many people got riled up about identity politics instead of, like, in the wrong way instead of the right way. You know what I mean? Like, that concerns me.
Yeah, first thing I thought of was defund the police,
Mm-hmm.
And just the messaging around that, and like, just we keep shooting ourselves in the foot, and we got to stop doing that because it results in things like this, and when you have someone, and as a consequence of this, when you have, a new Supreme Court justice in the state, or
yeah, Gordon McDonald, dude, that's, like, gonna happen.
That's hard. That is horrible.
That sucks.
And as a result of us shooting us in the foot, not because this one isn't because the Republicans are better than us. It's because we suck. And as a result of us sucking, we're now going to have a new Supreme Court justice. We're not going to have no inaction. We're going to have no action on any of these issues. And that's a very hard pill to swallow. Mm-hmm. And that, like, say the same thing in 2016. And that's why I think we saw no reckoning of the Democratic Party or the strategy that happened for them in 2016. We actually saw a complete reauthorization of that strategy in the form of nominating Joe Biden again, and just the reaffirmation of that strategy, which is a whole nother rant in and of itself. But
yeah.
it's I don't even know. But it's hard to know that you have to change the messaging. And I think everyone knows that they have to change the messaging. I mean, at least that's the feeling I get from being in all these different Zoom calls or whatever. A lot of people recognize that we have to change the messaging and it's not working. And it's just like, well, we can say we have to change the messaging all we want to, but when are we going to actually do it? Like, how do we
what is the change that we're making? I think we just talked about a couple different ways that you could change the messaging. And that's the thing that I'm like, I'm tired of hearing people say we need to change the messaging. Just stop trying to and just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, is the strategy?
Right.
Great. Identify the problem.
Yeah. Just give me solutions. I'm sick of this crap. So, I think this is probably where we'll leave it for today, but, like, thank you, Jonah, for going over this crap with me. This has been,
of course, anytime.
And,
I'm always down with it. So.
And we'll be back doing this stuff more often. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, it's like the one thing that I will say about sort of like ongoing from here is that, like, I won't be doing more solo shows. This isn't going to be the Carter show anymore. we're not. I don't want to hold that down. So I won't be doing streams unless I can have Jonah, or at least Jonah, if not another guest as well. And I hoping we can do some sort of 3-way conversations, 4-way conversations, get panel stuff going.
It's an in-person stuff going on too.
Yeah. We got some stuff brewing that we want to make happen. So, but in the meantime, folks, like, definitely go up to the Patreon, become a subscriber, hit the subscribe button down there, a little bell for notifications, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Jonah's Proletarianism. I'm Larry Folger. Yeah. Keep your skin thick, keep your powder dry.
Keep the faith, keep strategizing.
Be kind to people, be ruthless with power, So, and I think that's it for today. So take care, folks. We'll be back.